Alright, chop chop, we don't have a lot of time. Okay, so I'm going to go through all the new espers in the PTR server. So you guys are wondering how I have access to these espers. I'm not cheating, okay. Oh my god, what's that sound? I do have access to the PTR server, and you can as well. So we're going to start off with Yamato, and then we're going to talk about Mateo, and then we're going to talk about XUAN PIN, not XUAN PIN. Okay, so let's start off with Yamato here. Take a look at all of his abilities one by one. His first ability, Death Grasp, attacks one enemy twice, damage is 15% of attack plus 1.5% of max HP. Because it double hits, this also doubles as well, for a total of 15% attack plus 3% HP times 2. Now each hit has a 60% chance of inflicting stun for 1 turn, which is like not very good, right? I mean, it's okay, right? But then again, you know, Jiutian has like a much better proc chance, I would think. Now, second skill, Thunder Surge, attacks all enemies 3 times. Damage per hit is 10% of attack plus up to 1.2% of max HP. Now, each hit has a 35% chance of inflicting buff blocker for 2 turns and absorbs 10% AP and redistributes it evenly across all allies upon a critical hit. Now, consumes all stacks of Rashomon to deal extra true damage. Now, true damage per stack is 1.5% of the target's max HP, up to 1% of his own max HP, which means that given that Rashomon stacks up to 10 times, this is going to be a 15% true damage hit on his second skill, which is not a lot. 15% is actually quite garbage. Now, some of you guys might be asking, okay, so wouldn't the true damage multiply by 3 as well? We will get into that in just a bit. Now finally, his third skill, Abyssal Crossing, grants all allies attack up and defense up for 2 turns, gains a certain number of Rashomon stacks based on number of buffs on all allies, up to 10 buffs like I said. So a few things to note before we continue, right? He does have a captain ability that is speed as well. His second skill has an insanely long cooldown. 4 turns, right? Fully skilled up 4 turns. His third skill as well, 4 turns. This is whatever they are predicted as well. Now why is this an issue, right? Good question. Because he starts off with his third skill, he goes into his second skill, and then he loses all his Rashomon stacks, he loses all the crit rate that he has from the Rashomon buff, and all he's really left with is just Death Grasp for like a couple of turns, or like 3 turns or something like that, right? No, sorry, 2 turns. And he practically does nothing in this state. He does absolutely nothing. He's not quite the same as Everett, because Everett has like a lot of stuff jam-packed into his skills all the time. His third skill is good, his second skill is good, his first skill is also good, and he rotates pretty damn well. But that's not the case for Yamato, I think. Anyway, I don't want to jump the gun, but another thing that we should note is that his crit rate effect over here is essentially not that important, I would think. And the reason why I say that is the crit rate effect only benefits the AP absorption. It doesn't actually benefit his damage because he does true damage and true damage cannot crit. So this is a big problem indeed. Okay, I wouldn't say it's a big problem, but it's just that his crit rate effect here is actually quite redundant, because on one hand, it doesn't increase your true damage output, and on the other hand, you're going to lose it, so your Death Grasp is not actually going to, it's not going to land crits at all, which means that you kind of have to build him crit if you want him to crit more, but I don't think that's going to be the goal of players, so most players are not going to build him crit at all, they're not going to build him crit damage at all, because it doesn't scale at all. Anyway, here's his captain ability, increases ally speed by 35% in Story, Infinite Miracle, and Calamity Island. Now, before we get into his Ascensions and all that, let's take a look at him in this particular setup. And what I want to show you guys is to prove that his second skill doesn't actually triple and deal like 45% true damage. That is not the case at all. Okay, so here we go. We're going to use our third skill to buff up. And we're going to gain some Rashomon stacks this way. We're going to gain 10 because we have a lot of buffs on 3 of our allies here. Okay, so we did get the 10 stacks, right? Now let's use our second skill this time. And let's see how much damage we can do onto these enemies with full HP. Yep, 15% true damage, that's about it. If you slowed down the video or you paused the video to take a look at the numbers, you'll notice that it was only the first hit that had a true damage effect added onto it. And the other 2 attacks were just like whatever basic multipliers that he already has in his skill itself. So it is only a 15% true damage, it's really worth nothing at all. He's mostly just a buffer with some extra DPS. So he's kind of like a glorified Suhua in some sense, who has like stunts on his first skill for some reason, right? So that is going to be a big problem, I think. I'm not super sure where he would be good at right now. Now let's take a look at his Ascensions followed by his Resonances and my final thoughts about, my final initial thoughts, how about that, right? He starts off with flat attack for some freaking dumb reason. He has 950 flat HP, which is okay. He has 5 speed, which is okay. He has 15% HP and 25% crit damage, which is completely redundant, completely useless, completely like, what's the point? His main DPS comes from his true damage on his second skill, which isn't even much, and it doesn't even crit because it's true damage. So what the hell is the point of 25% crit damage over here? This is like completely nonsense. It should have been 20% HP here, and I don't know, maybe like accuracy and speed or something like that. There is no reason why he needs to have crit damage. It doesn't make sense. Now let's take a look at his Resonances, right? So his R2, Thunder Surge, AP absorption cannot be resisted. This is his second skill, so he's going to absorb AP. Oh, I forgot to talk about it. when we use his second skill, what happened is that we absorb AP, but we didn't actually redistribute the AP. I think that's like a bug right now, but it's probably going to be something that will be addressed very soon. So you can absorb up to 30% AP from every single enemy, which is very similar, or actually it's the same as TA right now, I think. Okay, now R4, upon a crit, 20% chance of dispelling one buff from the target. So you have a triple hit on your second skill, so when you crit, you have a marginal chance of removing any buffs that they have. So if they have immunity at the start, you can potentially luck out and strip it, but you guys already used Lucas, right? You know how low 20% is. And then absorb AP this way, which it's really not much. And now his final R6, Episode Crossing, gains an extra turn afterwards. So what happens is, right now he uses his third skill, he gains all the buffs, he gets 10 stacks of Rashomon, he goes straight into his second skill, which does absolutely nothing except for the buff blocker and maybe stripping some buff as well, which is like, I don't know. Right now, I don't have a very good opinion about him. Now, next Esper, let's talk about Mateo. Okay, so we're gonna start with his first skill as always. Blast Burn. Attacks one enemy 2 times, damage per hit is 50% of attack, so it goes up to 100%, or rather should I say 120%. Okay, each hit has a 60% chance up to 80% chance of dispelling one buff. This is actually not bad, right? You can dispel 2 buffs with his first skill, which is pretty good. Now, Inflict Spark for 2 turns as well. This is nice to have, and it's especially nice when he's at R2 as well, and we will get into that in just a little bit. But what Spark does, whenever the carrier takes critical hit, which is basically your enemy, right? Mateo gains 5% AP and deals extra damage to the target as well. Extra damage is 30% of his attack. This cannot miss, cannot land a critical hit, nor trigger an elemental boon. So it's just raw DPS that can be checked by defensive stats. Now, second skill, Fire Pillar. Attacks one enemy twice, damage per hit is 100% of attack, so it goes up to 200%. Inflicts disease, defense down for 2 turns on each of the hits, which is actually pretty good because it has a 100% proc chance. Now, each speed grants extra DPS, and the extra damage is 0.1% of attack, which is like freaking low. This is a freaking small multiplier, dude. If you want to compare with, like, let's say, Gabrielle, for example, right? She has a 0.33% on a triple hitting skill, which means every single speed on her second skill increases the damage output by 1% of her attack, which is insane. This is only 0.2%. It's 20% the efficacy of Gabrielle's AoE attack. Now, before attacking, if the enemy already has Spark, you gain 5 stacks of Eternal Flame. Now, what Eternal Flame does is 2% of attack per stack, and minus 1% damage taken per stack, up to 20 stacks. Which is like, not that great in my opinion. This is only 40% attack, and 20% damage mitigation. This is not that good in my opinion. Like, the numbers are actually really small. Okay, it's really small in terms of PvP, but in terms of PvE, I think it's still pretty nice to have because it's like 40% extra attack. The damage mitigation itself is kind of redundant, it's kind of forgettable as well, I think. But okay, this gives him 5 Eternal Flame stacks, just like that, which is okay. Now, let's move on to his third skill, Fire Punch. Gains 3. This will be 0.75% of his attack, which is okay. It's still not as good as Gabrielle's second skill, which AoE hits, but okay, this is much better than his second skill. Now, Mateo gains 1 stack of Eternal Flame when getting healed. Now, this skill has a freaking long cooldown as well of 4 turns. I thought this would be shorter at like 3 turns. And okay, this skill at least is 3 turns, which is okay. I was hoping that his third skill would also be a 3 turns cooldown, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. And finally, he has a Captain ability in Ritual Miracles, Sonic Miracles, Deathlock Lens, and Sentinel Hunt by 35%. And I do feel like he's going to strive in these areas as well, which is pretty good to have. So his Captain ability is actually really nice. Now let's test out a few things in the VR Battlegrounds. So the first thing I want to test out is what happens when we heal him, right? So we have Ahmed here for the healing. Is he going to gain multiple stacks this way? And the second thing that I want to test is if I give him a lifesteal via Abigail, when he attacks, will he also heal himself? So that's the main thing that I want to test out, right? So we're going to buff ourselves, give ourselves the lifesteal buff, and now Ahmed does the ultimate healing, right? Alright, so there you go. So he did gain 3 stacks of this supporting song plus 3 additional stacks of Eternal Flame, which is very nice. So there is a really good synergy here because if your Ahmed is at R2, that actually increases his speed, which increases his damage output, and also increases his damage, which further increases damage output. And on top of that, Eternal Flame also increases his damage even more, and also increases his damage mitigation, which is actually a really, really nice combo. So that multiplicative stacking is actually super, super damn cool. Okay, so now we have 3 stacks here. We're going to use our third skill. And this is supposed to give us up to 6 stacks of Eternal Flame, right? Because we are going to steal a buff as well. So yeah, I think we should gain 6 plus whatever that we are healing as well. So we should expect at least 9 stacks. So let's do it on this Esper over here. We are hoping to see more than 9 stacks. That's what I'm trying to say. We got 12 stacks. Okay, yes. So exactly my point. When you heal yourself via any means, so even if you have like the nether set on yourself, or you're at R4, you're always going to naturally gain stacks this way. So he is going to be an R4 Esper, that is for sure. He needs to have the inbuilt healing, or rather the inbuilt lifesteal for him to gain stacks whenever he attacks. If not, the other way is to just run him the nether set, but that also minimizes his damage output, I would think. Now, a second thing that I want to test out is how does his spark actually affect his AP gain. Is it going to be 5% AP per hit or 5% AP with one single skill? So we're actually going to push our AP a little bit this time. We're actually going to push Mateo to attack and land the spark debuff. And because this is a silver rim debuff, we can actually land it on anyone. Even if this is an Inferno Esper, right? We are still going to be able to land it on him. So there you go, we got the spark over here. Which will be cleansed, of course. Why did I? Shit. Okay, now we have this. Okay, so we're going to attack this Esper here. And he has the spark debuff. So we are going to multi-hit on our Una's first skill. Only 5% AP. Wait, I'm actually really surprised. Hold on, let's actually just do this again, right? Okay, one last chance. Let's do this one more time. Oh, okay. Oh, my bad. It's whenever the carrier takes a critical hit. I forgot about it. Okay, so you need to multi-hit and multi-crit at the same time in order for him to gain multiple AP pushing in one single skill. Okay, so that's fine. That is totally fine. That is actually not bad when you use him with an Elaine, right? Who can quintuple hit or like penta hit, whatever you call it. And that will increase his AP by 25% whenever she uses her second or her third skill, which is okay synergy. The synergy there is pretty good. Now let's go back to his Ascensions and his Resonances. So he starts out with flat attack, flat HP, which is okay, accuracy plus 10%. Like, what even is the point? His spark debuff does not... Okay, fine. He has defense break. Okay, I apologize. He has 10% crit, which is okay. Crit damage, attack percentage. Okay, fine. His Ascensions are decent. His Ascensions are okay. I'll prefer if he had crit damage, but you know what? Beggars can't be choosers, right? Now, this is the important part. His R2, Fire Punch. If the enemy has Spark, Mateo's crit rate is actually plus 100%. And this is actually a passive effect, confirmed by some players in the Discord server. So it's not just his third skill. So whenever any enemy has Spark, his crit rate increases by 100%, which may or may not be a problem. It is still potentially an issue because you're going to face enemies with cleansing, and they're going to get rid of the spark this way. So like Jinyu Yao, for example, every turn that she takes, boom, your spark disappears. And if that's the case, he loses 100% of his crit rate. So I wouldn't still really rely on this. I don't think that this is going to be that good. It's not quite the same as a Gaius who has no conditions whatsoever. He's just going to nuke. Now moving on, his R4, when HP is below 60%, this is the point, right? Lifesteal plus 15%. This is essential because this gives him more of his stacks. And R6, new effect for his third skill, Fire Punch. If Mateo has 10 or more stacks of Eternal Flame, and there is a surviving ally at the end of his turn, so you need to have at least one other ally, not himself, Mateo gains standoff for one turn. So this way he cannot abuse this and like infinitely have standoff buffs, right? Because you can take out his ally and then take him out afterwards without any standoff effect. So I do feel like he might be an R4 Esper, and this is just a might. But for the most part, I am actually not super excited about him in PvP anymore just because his multipliers are really low. The Eternal Flame multipliers here, I think the damage mitigation is like not good enough. I feel like it should go up to 50%. Because, okay, let's talk about Hyde, right? He's like the closest relative to Mateo right now. Now, Breath of the Deep, max 50 stacks. He has a 30% damage mitigation at max stacks. 30%. And he gains 250% attack on his Breath of the Deep. 250%. Mateo gains 40%. Think about that. Now, on top of that, Hyde is also completely immune to all debuffs. But Mateo is not immune to debuffs. And in fact, Mateo requires the Spark to gain AP and all that, which is easily cleansed. So that part of his kit is completely out of the window in terms of PvP. But of course, in terms of PvE, he still has his value, and he still might be really good in many different content, except for PvP right now. I'm a little bit disappointed in his kit. Alright, now the final Esper for today, this is going to be XUAN PIN. So ability 1, attacks one enemy, the damage is 120% of attack, and grants 15% AP to allies with Horse and Chariot. And you can see what Horse and Chariot does over here. So basically, Horse amplifies the damage up to an additional 100%, which doubles any of your damage, which is insane. And Chariot is going to be 5 stacks worth of your soldier buff, and that increases your attack by 10% and your speed by 50%, which is insane. But the thing is, you need 5 stacks of soldier, which we will get into in just a little bit. Now, her second skill, Heavy Cannonade, selects one ally, grants them cannon for 1 turn, and 100% AP. This is why I say that she is Abigail 2.0. In fact, she's a lot better than Abigail in this sense because she would defense break all the enemies as well, right? Attacks all enemies, inflicts defense down for 2 turns. Insane. And of course, she also dispels their shield because why not, right? Let's make it even more broken. So what Cannon does is dealing damage ignores 25% of defense. Now, there are a lot of Espers in this game who do not have ignore defense in their kit because they were not designed to be that way. So for you to have a defense ignoring aspect to any of these espers, right? Like Changji for example, or even Nama, that is freaking... Okay, no, Nama has ignored defense, my apologies. Like Embla for example, that is freaking insane. Like there's a huge reason why some of these espers don't ignore defense, and she's gonna mitigate all of that, and in fact land defense down at the same time. It is broken as heck. Now, her final third skill, Checkmate, grants 2 turns of attack up and 1 stack of soldier to all allies, and grants horse to 2 allies with the highest attack for 2 turns. Now, attacks all enemies, the damage is 70% of attack, and deals extra true damage as well. The true damage is 10% of the enemy's max HP, up to 100% of her attack. I don't know why they have to include all of this redundant stuff that just messes up the kit so much. Like, this actually confuses the heck out of a lot of things. And furthermore, she also inflicts misrate up for 2 turns, which is like, what? Like, why? Like, she has so many things here already. And at the start of combat, gains general, grants 1 stack of a soldier to all teammates, excluding herself. Okay, I'm very thankful that this skill actually grants 2 turns of attack up, and it doesn't apply at the start of the wave, which is something that we assumed. Because in the patch notes, it didn't specifically say that this buff was an active. It could have been misinterpreted into a passive. So she's not going to completely replace, at least at this point. Now, what does general do, right? So when XUAN PIN attacks, she will 100% call in 1 random teammate with soldier, excluding herself, to assist 100%. So she's immediately better than Alice in this regard, and grants them 1 stack of soldier as well. Clears horse, cannon, chariot, and soldier from the allies, from all allies upon her death. This is what this means. Increases your attack by 1% per stack, up to 5 stacks. So that's like 5%. Well, good luck with this. When this effect is at full stacks, converts it into chariot for 2 turns. So this is how you get chariot. So like I said, chariot plus 10% attack and plus 50% speed. This 50% speed is insane. Gains 1 stack of soldier when this effect expires. And horse, like we talked about, it increases damage up to 2 times depending on enemy's max HP, which we will test in this showcase as well. And okay, finally, point war crit rate by 30%. Okay, so now for the first test, we are going to test Gaia's damage with and without the horse effect. And we have Abigail here so that we can have the attack up buff without relying on her third skills. Because right now we want to test without the horse buff on Gaia's. Okay, so we attack up buff, and let's see how much damage he can nuke with just the 2% soldier effect, which is like redundant, right? 95k, okay, pretty good. Now let's test the difference with the horse effect. We did a little bit of damage which will affect the horse output. It will affect it. It will reduce the total amplification that we can do, but you know what? It's still more damage, right? And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, the more HP the enemies have, the higher the amplification. 150k. Freaking disgusting shit. But we need to test one more thing. Okay, actually we need to test 2 more things. The first test is to show you that, well, in this case, Gaius is really broken, but in some cases, Gaius is not that broken with her. Let me show you why. So for example, we have our second skill, right? So what this does is it grants cannon to 1 ally for 1 turn and increases their AP to 100%. And afterwards, you inflict defense down on all enemies, which is very nice. But take a look at what happens when you give it to Gaius, right? So now he has cannon for 1 stack. Oh my god. Almost full defense break. But what happens when you use our third skill? We had immunity because of the Unas, so we didn't get stunned. But as you can see, we no longer have the cannon effect because he cannot extend golden buffs. So cannon itself is a golden buff, so Gaius cannot extend golden buffs. He can only extend that 1 turn of immunity that he had, and therefore he will not get stunned, which means his attack is still going to do base damage. So he's not going to benefit from cannon, which is like, I guess it's a good thing, so Gaius doesn't actually scale off crazily through all these extra buffs that XUAN PIN has. But let's say we have Yuhime over here, right? So Yuhime, she can benefit from XUAN PIN's second skill. So let's test out how much damage she can do without an attack buff, right? Without an attack up buff, just defense break, full defense break, and cannon itself. Okay, about 50k. We didn't get stunned because we had immunity from Unas over here. So let's actually try it again without the Unas, and when we use our third skill. Oh my god, I kept testing, I didn't understand how she had the immunity here, and it's because she calls in an ally to assist because of her general, and therefore she actually gains extra immunity from her first skill, so that's why she had immunity over here. Okay, so Yuhime will never get stunned by the cannon buff. Very nice. Okay, you know what? Let's just test it on the Unas, okay? Our third skill, we will ignore defense and we get our ass stunned afterwards, which is not good for your Unas, so never ever use it on your Unas. Now let's end off this showcase with her Ascensions, followed by, oh my god, she gains attack, what? And flat HP, okay. Let's end off this showcase with her Ascensions and Resonances. She has 10% attack. Wow, they really want to push her attack power. What? 15% HP and 10 speed. Oh wow, 10 speed, that's actually pretty good. What's her base speed? 105, oh my god, 1 shy away from Unas. Okay, very nice. Now, as for her resonances, her R2, heavy cannonade, the second skill, the carrier of cannon no longer gains stun when cannon expires. So you can use this on many other espers right now. You don't need to worry that they'll get stunned after this skill. They're still going to do whatever they need to do, which is like completely pay to win in my opinion, because this removes that one catch, that one balancing factor in this skill. This skill is so broken, and now your ally cannot get stunned. Okay. R4, hasty action. If there's an ally on cooldown, if there's an ability on cooldown, speed plus 20. Very good. Checkmate R6. When XUAN PIN has general, grants 1 stack of soldiers to all teammates at the end of her turn. So if let's say she takes like 2 turns, right? She starts off with her third skill. She'll give 2 stacks of soldiers to everyone because the third skill itself already grants 1 stack to all allies. And at the start of combat, she also has 1 stack for all allies, so that's 2 stacks. But when she ends her turn, there'll be 3 stacks. No wait, but on top of that, there's also going to be 1 more extra stack to one of your random allies because of her general effect. So when she calls an ally to assist, they will gain 1 stack of soldier as well. So that one random ally will have 4 stacks. And then when she takes a turn again, if she uses her second skill, she would attack all allies, which means that her general effect will still call in another ally to assist. So maybe that one other ally gets 1 extra stack to 4 stacks, or maybe even 5 stacks at this point. And if that is the case, that Esper gets Chariot. And then when she ends her turn, she gives 1 more stack to all of her other allies at R6. So it's kind of confusing. It's not very straightforward, but the big issue here is that you need 5 stacks of soldier in order to convert it to Chariot. So at R6, you're not able to turn 1 Chariot all your entire teammates, which is not going to be possible. Unless only 3 stacks of soldier is required for the chariot to take place, but yeah, that's not going to be the case. Okay, so anyway, this video has been like extremely long. I'll go ahead and test these espers a little bit more and like just have proper showcases individually. So keep your eyes peeled for those videos coming really soon. Now leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. How do you feel about each of these espers? And what do you think they're going to be good for? Where do you think they're going to be great at? Do you have any other opinions about these espers? Do you think that they're actually good and I'm not seeing it? I mean, okay, XUAN PIN is obviously super good. We understand, we agree on that. It's just a little bit unfortunate that her soldier buff doesn't actually do anything at all. But yeah, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now that's it. This has been Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.